Today's film begins with the corrupt police detective Zeke meeting our hero, the skilled locksmith Miller, to carry out a robbery. Miller has brought his lifelong friend Kevin along, and Zeke assures them that the building they're going toward is under construction and has no alarms. He even says he'll use the police radio if he allows it. Miller and Kevin arrive at the building, ready with their tools, but Kevin seems apprehensive about the mission. Miller assures him they need money and, thanks to his locksmithing expertise, easily opens the door. He enters a specific wall, breaks through it, and pulls the safe from the room behind it. He and his friend are overjoyed to see a large sum of money, believing all their problems will be solved. However, the surprise comes when they discover motion sensors among the cash, meaning the police have definitely been alerted. Kevin starts to panic, telling Miller he'd get arrested and leave his sister alone in the world. They reassure our hero, Zeke, that he'll cooperate with the police, and we see him responding to the signal that he's close and will go there, but strangely, he pulls out an unknown gun and as soon as he reaches the building, he fires 2 shots at Kevin's car. As soon as Kevin comes out, Zeke fires 2 more shots at him, ending his life instantly. He places the gun next to Kevin's car as if Kevin had shot him, forcing him to kill him. When Miller comes out, he's shocked by the treachery. But the police arrive, and he's forced to surrender. Zeke tells him, "Your friend shot at me twice, so I had to defend myself and kill him. If you try to say otherwise, think about your wife, Kitty, and your baby daughter, Lily." Our hero accepts the situation and is recorded for 10 years. As soon as he's released, he finds his adoptive father, Frank, waiting for him. Frank is very supportive and tells him, "I need a talented locksmith like you to help me with the business." Our hero agrees because he wants to get his life back on track, especially with Kitty and Lily. He hadn't seen them in years. Frank arrived at the warehouse, a special place for him to leave and start his life anew. He was given a car and a phone and was taking excellent care of him. The important thing was that he try to rebuild his life quickly and stay away from trouble. When they asked about what happened to April, they were surprised to learn that she had been moved between foster homes many times after Kevin's death. Even when she was a little older, Frank tried to contact her, but she refused completely. Our hero couldn't catch his breath and immediately called Kitty to tell her he had just been released and needed to see their daughter. Kitty took her daughter and went to meet him at a restaurant, but because the first meeting was a bit tense, she let the girl play away until she spoke with Miller. She told him frankly from the start that she had struggled immensely to raise Lily alone after he was imprisoned and didn't want to reopen old wounds. But if he wanted to see his daughter regularly, he had to improve his behavior and avoid getting into trouble so that she wouldn't become attached to him and he wouldn't return. The second important thing is that at night, our hero sits with Frank and tells him what happened. He's sad about the 10 precious years of his life that have passed, but Frank encourages him to start a new life and try to be a good father to his daughter. The very next day, Frank wakes him up because he's been offered a job. He goes to fix a lock on a specific person's house, and after he finishes, the client comes and asks him to make smart locks for several houses in the area. He tells him that the person who recommended him for this job is April, Kevin's sister, who works for the client. Miller is surprised, especially when he learns that she lives in one of the houses there. As soon as he finishes, Berg returns to Frank's shop and finds April waiting for him. He doesn't recognize her at first because she's grown up so much since she was a child. The meeting is tense, of course, because Miller caused her brother's death when he convinced him to participate in the robbery. April is surprised to find out that she needs a lot of money and wants his help, so he assures her that he will stand by her in anything but that he will never go back to stealing again, so she gets very upset by his behavior and takes her car and leaves immediately. Miller then goes in and tells Frank what happened, and Frank immediately advises him to stay away from her if she will get him into trouble again. The important thing is that one day, while our hero was returning from work, he was surprised by the past. They chased him again and stopped 2 policemen until their leader, Detective Zeke, arrived. Zeke pulled Miller out of the car and spoke to him with extreme sarcasm, especially since Miller had been promoted a lot because of his past arrests. Now he was about to retire and didn't want to cause any trouble, but the two officers with him, Perez and Jones, weren't going to retire anytime soon. If Miller even thought about saying anything or upsetting him, they would make his life even more miserable than it already was. Before leaving, Zeke had his men beat Miller mercilessly and arrest him. When they found lock-picking tools on him, they made an excuse in front of the police station chief, saying that the tools needed a license, especially given his previous theft convictions. At that moment, Kitty saw Miller, and we discovered that she had become a detective. She told him to be careful and stay away from lock-picking altogether because he's just been released from prison, but luckily for him, the sheriff is sympathetic because they didn't see him doing anything wrong with those tools. However, he explains that he can't make locks without a license anymore, and since he hasn't committed any crimes, he'll let him go. Our hero then returns to Frank, who was upset that Miller didn't finish the day's work. Frank tells him what happened and that he needs to get a license to continue working. The next day, there's a farewell party at the police station for Detective Zach, and the sheriff himself comes out to congratulate him on his impressive career. Strangely, Zach says directly in front of everyone, "Pay attention, Miller, the one you arrested a while back, is out of prison." Kitty is embarrassed, of course, because he's divorced her. Zach insists they all attend his retirement party. As everyone gets up to leave, he decides to sit with Kitty in his office and win her over. He tells her, he'll nominate you to take over my position after retirement, and he keeps praising her, especially after she dealt with him professionally. He was the one who got her husband thrown in jail back then. Kitty is surprised by this sudden decision because she's still working on unfinished cases, and he's going to appoint her OSHA's deputy right now. But Zach reassures her that he'll sort everything out and pressures her until she has to agree. She goes out and calls Miller, asking him to pick up the girl from her piano lesson today because she'll be busy. Of course, our hero agrees, very appreciative of the second chance she's giving him. He goes to pick up his daughter from the lesson, and they sit and eat in the garden for a while. The girl tells him that her mother told her about his skill in making and opening locks, so he decides to take her to the warehouse and show her how to open any lock with just a hair clip. Although this isn't exactly the right thing to do, my dear friend, heck knows it anyway, so he's doing her a favor. And she'll benefit from it later. Stay with me, anyway. That night, Miller returns the girl to her mother at the agreed-upon time. Kitty informs him that Zeke is retiring and that she will take his place as deputy head of the station. Our hero congratulates her despite his hidden animosity towards the corrupt detective. Before getting into his car and driving off, he sees Zeke leaving the bar across the street, who, as usual, tries to harass him. Zeke hints that Kitty will be in a dangerous position and that something could happen to her, which is why he left his henchmen, Pierce and Jones, with her. Our hero, of course, understands the warning and leaves Socket. But strangely, when he returns to the warehouse, he finds Abe waiting for him. She tells him she has a major problem with the man she works for and explains that she is a prostitute. One off many, and that the man who manages these girls is a despicable individual named Jarrett. She confirms that she was forced to turn to him after Kevin's death because she was lost, but when she tried to escape, he beat and tortured her mercilessly. She spent 3 weeks in the hospital receiving treatment, and she also confirmed to him that the police were involved and she couldn't rely on them. That's why she had a lot of money to disappear from the city forever. Our hero firmly told her he had vowed never to steal again, no matter what. April pressured him intensely because he was ignoring her life, which was in danger, and more importantly, his family, Kitty and Lily, under this pressure. Our hero agreed and asked her about the operation. She explained that Jared was gathering important people at his house to gamble, and he would quietly steal the money and give it to her so she could disappear forever. This would compensate her for everything. Meanwhile, Kitty was working on a case involving prostitutes and was surprised that no one in the city was paying attention or investigating this dirty business. The next day, Miller went with April to inspect Jared's house, and she explained that Jared he's busy playing all night, and she'll help him as much as she can until he takes the money and leaves. When she's finished, she'll come to Frank's warehouse, and that's when our hero is surprised to find the amount is $500,000. Anyway, while they're monitoring the place, he's even more shocked when he sees Zeke arrive to meet Garrett. At that moment, after extensive searching, Kitty discovers that all the prostitutes are caught, and they all eventually give the name of one street, which is in Garrett's apartment complex. But John Z tries to mislead her and make her stop searching by any means necessary. Anyway, when night falls, Miller puts on the mask and prepares to break into the luxurious house. As soon as Miles sees him, she creates chaos in the place so that everyone is attracted to her. Miller goes through to the office, but the corrupt expert Zeke, who is there, senses that something is wrong. However, our hero still manages to enter the office easily, and that's when he finds the $500,000 briefcase ready and waiting for him. But before he can take it and leave, Zeke comes in. So, of course, he's forced to fight him off and starts hitting him, but Zeke knocks him to the ground. He tries to remove the mask from his face but can't. Our hero pulls out a gun and threatens to kill him. So Zeke gets scared and tells him to take the money he came for and leave because if he shoots, the people here won't let him live. Miller actually takes the bag of money and leaves, but he doesn't notice that he dropped a box of lock-picking tools. Zeke sees it, and a guard also spots Miller and starts to chase him away. Our hero is forced to take April hostage and threatens to blow her head off if anyone comes near him. At the right moment, he lets her go and quickly gets the car and disappears from the scene. Meanwhile, Grid is furious and yells at Zeke because the money was stolen while he was there. He demands that Zeke find out who the bastard is who did this and return the bag immediately. As for our hero, he's already back. The warehouse manager deposited the money and kept calling April, but she wasn't answering at all. This worried him, especially since he kept calling until morning and still no answer. So he decided to go to her house to check on her, but he was surprised to find the door open and even more shocked to find the house ransacked and turned upside down, as if someone had been searching through it. He realized that April had been exposed and was now in danger. Meanwhile, Kitty's daughter, Thanya, arrived at the house. She was working on a prostitution ring and told Kitty that she and April had worked for Jart, who had provided them with an easy life, an apartment, a car, and so on, but over time, she realized that the situation was dangerous and that anyone who tried to escape would literally meet a fate worse than death. She gave Kitty a flash drive containing important evidence that would help her, especially since April had been missing since yesterday and no one knew her whereabouts. She also saw Miller leaving Kitty's house this morning, and of course, Kitty was surprised when she heard his name and understood that it must be him. Miller knows something about what's happening. As soon as he arrives at Frank's workplace, he finds Frank throwing wads of stolen money at him. Miller is forced to tell him what happened and that April is currently missing and in danger. Frankie's upset that he's gotten himself into trouble and could end up back in prison. Despite all this, our hero feels he had to help her somehow because how's her? Frank asks him to take the money and give it to Kitty and tell her everything because she's the only one who can help him in his situation. But Miller is worried about April and decides to go to Garrett's place to see her. He asks Frank to keep the money in his safe temporarily. As for Kitty, she opens the flash drive and is shocked by the number of horrifying photos, including pictures of beaten girls and important officials in the country, as well as an audio recording between Garrett and Zeke. Kitty is stunned to discover that Zeke is involved and has been helping this slave trader for a long time. She vows to herself that she will do something and help. April and others like her decide to go to Miller and ask him directly about April. When he denies seeing her since he left, she gets upset and tells him she knows about Zach and his gang's corruption and that he might have intentionally framed him in his old case. She asks him to stay away from any trouble so he doesn't get involved. She returns to the station and goes to the sheriff, showing him everything on the flash drive. The sheriff is shocked that Zach, the ideal detective, turned out to be corrupt. He asks Kitty to investigate with him secretly until they find additional evidence or a witness to support their case. That same night, Miller puts on the mask and decides to break into Jarrett's house in search of April. As soon as Jarrett sees him by the pool, he mocks him and says, "Why don't you take off the mask and let's talk?" But Jarrett says their hero is here on a specific mission and asks him to free April. Jarrett denies knowing anything about what Jarrett is saying. And all that I just want the $500,000 that he stole from him. Suddenly, he holds a pull cue to his brain and tries to control it, but Miller gets angry and beats him until he throws him to the ground and suffocates him, and even though he removes the mask from his face, he loses consciousness at that time. Miller prefers to drown his face in the swimming pool in order to confess the location of Brill's needles, and in fact, Jar cannot bear it and confesses to him that he does not know where it is, but it is true that he asked. Zeke solves what happened, and it is certain that he was the one who kidnapped her at the time, but they beat Miller to make him lose consciousness. He quickly returns to his car and leaves the place, but Zeke and April were watching him from afar, and here we discover that April was involved with Zeke from the beginning in order to take her neighbor's money, and this is what happened when Zeke enters the house and takes out a gun and shoots guard with fire, killing him and leaving Miller's toolbox beside him. His corpse so that he can wear it. So April got her revenge and got him back in prison. Miller returns to Frank furious, and Frank keeps telling him he has to get Kitty to help him, but our hero is scared because he knows how brutal Zeke is and he might hurt April. Suddenly, while they're talking, Kitty and her daughter arrive at the location. Meanwhile, Jones and Piers enter the sheriff's office and find the flash drive Kitty gave him. They take it.as for our hero Miller. He finally decides to confess everything. Kitty, of course, blames him for carrying out the robbery on April and refuses to let him get involved again. But he tells her the truth about Zeke, that he was the one who killed Kevin a long time ago, and tells him not to say a word. April, of course, doesn't know anything about this. So Kitty asks Miller to trust her and give her the money to take to the sheriff. This way, he'll cooperate with them, which will greatly improve his position. Meanwhile, these are Zeke's men informing him about the flash drive Kitty handed over to the sheriff. He becomes furious because he's been exposed in front of the sheriff himself, and there's no going back. So, he orders his men to go to Frank's location and kill Miller. It doesn't matter, as long as they get him the bag of money by any means necessary. At that point, April is surprised that he's changing his agreement. He promised her the money would be hers after they finish with Garrett, but he tells her, sorry, plans change, and we have to change with them. April calls Miller again and tells him she's cooperating with Zeke, but before she can say anything, Jones and Perez arrive and open fire on the location. Frank tries to help and throws a gun to Miller to defend them, especially since Lily is there. Frank, with his rifle, can kill Perez, but unfortunately, Jones kills him and captures Lily, threatening Miller with her. Kitty hears the gunfire on the radio and runs to the location quickly. And that's when our hero, he swears to the man that the money isn't here and that Kitty took it to deliver to the sheriff. He begs him to let the girl go, but the man kidnaps her and leaves. Our hero can't catch him because he's been shot in the leg. He runs to Frank's body, grieving and crying because Frank was truly his godfather. When Kitty arrives, she's shocked to learn that their daughter has been kidnapped and, sadly, that Frank is dead too. Miller tells her about April's involvement and that he has to give them the money. Before he can finish, Zeke calls him and asks him to bring the money to a deserted square and not to try to pull any traps. Meanwhile, Jones handcuffs Lily and leaves her in a room with April, who is surprised to see her because she's still a child. Jones ties her to the nightstand, and she goes to talk to Zeke because the girl wasn't part of their plan at all. But he doesn't care about her at all, his only goal is to get the money. So April decides to. Something good happened in her life, and she sent Miller a message with his daughter's exact location. As soon as he sees it, he shows it to Kitty and asks her to go and rescue their daughter. He says he'll meet with Zeke and try to stall him as much as possible, although Kitty refuses because Zeke would never let him go while he's alive. Miller insists that their daughter is the top priority. A little while later, Miller arrives at the scene, armed, and confronts Zeke. He demands that Zeke release his daughter first so he can give him the money. His beautiful daughter, however, uses the trick Miller taught her to get Jones out of the room and removes the handcuffs from her wrists using a hairpin. This coincides with Kitty's arrival. She sees her daughter and runs, with Jones coming down after her. She shoots him twice, killing him instantly, and saves Lily at the last moment. She takes Lily with her in the car so they can rush to rescue Miller. Especially since he was stalling Zeke to buy time. Kitty tells Zeke that he and April share a hatred for our hero, especially since she believes he was responsible for her brother Kevin's death. She doesn't realize that Zeke is the root of all this trouble. The surprising twist is that April was standing behind them and overheard everything. She immediately shoots Zeke, finishing him off before he can kill Miller for good. However, she believes Miller was the one who convinced her brother to commit the robbery in the first place, and therefore deserves to die. Kitty arrives and tries to calm April down, telling her she did the right thing by leading them to Lily just in time. Miller confesses his guilt, admitting he preferred the long struggle to Kevin's death. Amidst all this, April breaks down in tears and drops the gun. Kitty hugs her and comforts her. Later, we see our hero has completely transformed himself and his life, and Kitty has also received a promotion at work, which the sheriff now recognizes. A trustworthy and respectable policewoman, and even their daughter Lily is improving her piano playing. The two of them are preparing a beautiful concert for her after Kitty decides to give our hero a chance to rebuild their lives. And that's where the movie ends. We hope you liked the summary. If you've made it to the end, don't forget to like the video and leave a nice comment, as you always do. And if this is your first time watching, subscribe to the channel to see the upcoming summaries. See you in the next movie.